Hello, and welcome back to Let's Play 80 Days. I'm your host, BringItDon. I guess we stay at the hotel for a day. I do want to check out the market. The stench of Smearenburg was all-pervading. It mingled with coal smog and thick plumes of steam to form a foul miasma that hung, thick and grim, and unaccountably oily, over the settlement. Took a few deep breaths, trying to accustom myself to the terrible odor as quickly as possible. "It is Wales," a nearby fellow put in sagely, in Finnish accented English. I greeted him courteously, feeling the need to maintain some semblance of civilization in this place so lacking in it. The man pointed at several copper kettles nearby. They were set into brick ovens belching black smoke from their chimneys. They render the whale blubber there for oil and fuel. You become accustomed to the smell. I introduced myself to him, and though he shook my hand, he shrugged as he did so, as our meeting was of little note. "I am Viti Jokinen," he said. Or Jokinen? You don't look like seal hunters or smugglers, so what are you doing here?" We're going around the world," I said with perhaps less enthusiasm than was warranted. "Oh, are you adventurers?" he pronounced the last with a generous smearing of disdain. "I had hoped perhaps that you were geologists." "Do you often hope for geologists?" I asked curiously. "Seems a slim hope in these parts." "It is the Arctic," he shrugged. "After hunters and adventurers, scientists are the most common breed." What is your purpose here?" He smiled and pointed to his collar, where a copper lily pin gleamed metallic against his furs. "I'm an artificer." "Oh, yeah," I introduced myself and my master politely. It was never a good idea to cross an artificer. "I am here on an expedition to the North Pole, as it happens," he said, casually enough. Monsieur Fogg's demeanor altered entirely. "You don't say," he remarked. "My good fellow, let me buy you whatever it is they drink here." I waited to see Monsieur Jokinen's response. Okay. Oh yeah, but a moment later, both he and my master were gone, away down the street, plotting like rogues. Alright, well, let's explore. Perfect. We found our way to the North Pole, I believe. I was masterless in a cold city. I scarcely remember how I passed the... I walked the cobbled streets and steam-vented heated alleys of Smearenburg. I watched a couple of hard-bitten men and women flens a whale's flesh from its bones, chatted amiably with a group of shivering prostitutes at the dock, and narrowly avoided a brawl at one of the taverns. I could not stop thinking of the North Pole. It was a dream, a myth, as much as any real place. It was one of my dreams, too. What child had not read the stories of Franklin's lost expedition of 1845, and imagined themselves finding his ship perfectly preserved, of sailing into the pure white and making something unknown known? These were my thoughts at the moment my master returned. Cheeks reddened with the unnatural flush. "Passepartout," he announced, slurring his words ever so slightly. "We're going to the North Pole." "I'll prepare some hot water," I replied. After all, what else was there to say? Alright, let's depart. No, hold on, let's check the market real quick. Back to Smearenburg, please. Wind scarf. I don't think we need that. Iron ore might be of use. Do we have anything worth money here? This is worth 480. This might be worth getting rid of. Sell for 65, 36. Now let's depart. 100 extra. Oh, what? I just missed my chance. Son of a gun. Alright. It's a very expensive trip, though, up to the North Pole. I might be broke after this. I might have to sell a couple of these things. I want to get this inscribed with music, but I'm going to be a little hard strapped for cash. I'm going to keep this due to the storms we may run across. And we'll wait for another day. Then hopefully we'll be able to depart in time. With the last light of the evening, I spent a few hours polishing shoes in the lobby, earning 114 pounds in fees and tips, as well as discovering from her that his sister always wanted to take the gyrocopter from Gastown to San Francisco. Well, I discovered the opposite route previously, so I think I'm okay. Let's depart. North Pole, embark. I will pay for an extra space. And oh wow, look at that thing. I confess, I gaped like a simpleton when Monsieur Jokinen showed us the enormous contraption that would lead to the polar expedition. We call it the Ice Walker, he said, patting one of the enormous metal skis attached to the machine's underside. What a practical name. Let's say that. This sounds awful. Don't listen to him, Colta, he told the Ice Walker soothingly, and covered a slight smile with one graceful mittened hand. The machine was vaguely boat-shaped, with a pilot's bubble of reinforced glass at the front. A wicked-looking harpoon was mounted at the back. Above a vast hatch with no clear purpose, I could discern. Perhaps an airship hangar door. The hull itself resembled that of a cock, used by the Pomor people for Arctic hunting. Rounded lines, an additional layer of flush skin planking, a protective false keel. Who designed this marvel? I asked absently, still absorbed in studying the angles and curves of the machine. She is the result of 3 years of work and hundreds of artificers, ingenuity and sweat, Monsieur Jokinen said, unable to keep the pride from his voice. And what did you design? I asked, taking my cue from his tone. I designed the failsafes. His expression shuddered. Hopefully you will never see them, or never even see them. Monsieur Fogg cleared his throat behind me. Let us go aboard, Passepartout. His eyes looked overly bright. Feverish, perhaps. I could not help a flash of concern, for this was not a journey for someone in a susceptible condition. What is your wish, master? Is there something the matter? The journey does not do to be excited, but do I anticipate it? Yes, I do. The North Pole. Magnetic North is the true goal, of course. In Gastown? Buy revolvers in Gastown. Extremely valuable in New Orleans. What if I can have a high noon showdown with a cowboy in the West? We settled in and heard two sharp whistles that signaled our departure. With a rumble of boilers and a crack of ice, we began our expedition into the uncharted peril of the Arctic. I could not help but wonder whether we would arrive in London within 40 days? Let's say find the North Pole, at long last, or perhaps even make history. I turned the whale oil lamps down low and climbed into bed, but it was a long time before I fell into sleep. Fogg. Oh. I groomed Monsieur Fogg. Oh, excuse me. We stopped at the nearby bay of Berjo-Amna to add a large tethered balloon to our convoy to be used for meteorological readings and short explorations. A lone artificer manned the small hangar that jutted up from the icy beach and glared at the ice walker. What a vulgar contraption. I think it quite marvelous. Do you? He gave me an appraising look. I am Salomon Auguste Andre, and I propose that we take my balloon all the way to the North Pole, but the council requisitioned it as mere support and ordered me to stay behind. Yeah, did you design the balloon yourself? I asked, intrigued. Of course, he narrowed his eyes. Why? What have you heard? Yeah, as though I had a secret. The artificer sighed. I had my balloon manufactured privately, without guild approval, because they are all old-fashioned has-beens. He ground his teeth. They've had it out for me ever since. I understood his frustration if what he said was true. Still, I wanted no part of the internal artificer politics. Then Monsieur Jokinen appeared at my side and pulled me back to the ice walker with only a tight-lipped look at Monsieur Andre. Yeah, why don't we travel by air all the way? I asked, curiously piqued. Balloons don't have enough steering control, and airships are too fuel-hungry, he replied promptly. I see Salomon's been bleeding at you. I'd say even he was obsessed, pole mad. I fear my master is as well, I remarked, but it was useless to complain. Our relations have deteriorated. I should have said anything. Screw him up a little bit. At breakfast, Monsieur Jokinen introduced us to our fellow expeditionists. I paid particular attention to... Bogdan Mazensky, leader of the formidable Pomor hunters who man the harpoons. We'll be supplying provisions till we're away from land, anyway, he rasped. Then we'll hunt whales, of course. But of course, I agreed, attempting to appear knowledgeable. Indeed, Monsieur Mazensky and Monsieur Jokinen exchanged quiet smiles, though I think you'll be a little surprised all the same. I am not eating whale blubber, I told them quite seriously. I would rather starve. You might well starve, young man, the Pomor hunter snorted, eyeing me like an errant child. Monsieur Jokinen made a sympathetic face behind the man's back. Let's converse. Monsieur Jokinen, why passepartout? It's good to see you. The North Pole. I'm told you cannot rely on compasses near the pole. Equipment must be more sophisticated. Well, I never. I can go to St. Petersburg? It's strange. It's the most strange contraption. Strangely evolved for a strange place. You heard if some buyers will pay well for Ashanka hats from St. Petersburg. Let's talk about Moscow. I wouldn't mind going to Moscow. I want to go to Moscow in real life as well. Oh, that's from Helsinki. Okay. Wonder where I can go from the North Pole. In all honesty, like, there's nothing near. We've discovered anyway. Halfway through the afternoon, we fetched up at an icy cliff, far too sheer to be essayed by the ice walker's skis. Will we tunnel through it? I asked aloud, peering out from the thick glass window of the bridge. Monsieur Jokinen cast me a look full of mischief, and I pulled a lever of gleaming wood. We lurched down with a mechanical hiss, and the engines hummed at a higher pitch. I kept my face to the glass. Out of the window, I saw the mechanical skis bend and articulate. They must have had hidden joints, forming themselves into sharp claws which dug into the pack ice. We scuttled up the ice face. There's no other word to describe it. The ice walker swung and hissed and spewed steam in great shrieking gouts, but we made it up in less than 5 minutes. Next time, Monsieur Jokinen put in jovially, buckle up. I was in the end grateful. The artificer's foresight in designing such a contraption. Now that the gut-wrenching terror had passed, it seemed like quite a jolly adventure. Madame Juho, you, the interloper. Tulpamatic North is the true goal, of course. No one has ever set foot at the pole. Can you imagine being the first to do so? North Pole, St. Petersburg? I wouldn't believe it. Now anyway, I despise these wastes. Your home? One does not choose one's place of birth, that's true, and I've brought that up several times. Let's see, can we go to Honolulu from the North Pole? I said nothing, okay. And revolvers in Honolulu. Everything's valuable in New Orleans, it seems. The coast of Spitzbergen disappeared in our wake. There was no land between here and the pole, or none that had been discovered. It was entirely possible that there was nothing but frozen ocean and endless sky ahead. Yeah, let's walk the balcony. Spotting a few ringed seals cavorting playfully on a nearby ice floe. In the water there were dark shapes of circling killer whales. The further we moved away from land, the more alone we would be. It was quiet and still. Beautiful in a spare, brutal sort of way. It was as though I could look out upon the vista and unmoor myself, let myself melt and drift and shiver into its wide spaces. Behind us are the little clustered lights of civilization, and only unrelieved whiteness lies ahead. I was heating Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to a precise degree when I heard a long trumpet blast and the sound of many boots thumping in the corridor. I gave Monsieur Fogg a beseeching look, and he scratched his chin pointedly before tightening his lips. "Oh, very well, Passepartout," he said. "Go investigate." I followed the sound of boots to a brightly lit room at the very aft of the ship. Monsieur Mazensky was shouting commands to his group of Pomor hunters, but paused to toss a glare in my direction. "What are you doing here, civilian?" "I came to join you," I announced, somewhat to my own surprise. "Really?" For a moment I thought he would dismiss me and straightened my shoulders. I attempted to look like a competent fellow in the mysterious crisis. Instead, Monsieur Mazensky glanced at the panel of furiously blinking lights and sighed, "It is too late." He pushed me aside and sealed the bulkhead behind me with a grunt. A moment later, the floor beneath my feet began to hum. "What is happening?" I asked plaintively, without much hope of reply. The Pomor huntsman pulled me into the chair next to him and buckled me in place with what I can only describe as unnecessary viciousness. I remained silent, an awareness that I was intruding. All the hunters were warmly outfitted, heavily armed and grim-faced. The hum reached a crescendo, and there was a stomach-churning wrench as the room detached from the ice walker and pitched into the air. It was a gyrocopter masquerading as a ready room. I leaned towards the observation windows. A slash of pale sky, rolling ice-charted ocean, and what was that? Zut alors. "There she blows, monsieur." Monsieur Mazensky pointed and elbowed me in the side. "Isn't that what you English say when you spot a whale?" "Are we going to hunt a whale?" I goggled at the enormous creature visible against the churning water. "That whale?" Oh, excuse me. One of Monsieur Mazensky's hunters shouted a phrase in Russian. There was a scramble. A hunter opened a hatch in the ceiling and clambered up to man the mounted harpoon. Another shouted out the direction and heading of the whale to the pilot. "What can I do to help?" I asked, gathering my courage. "Nothing," Monsieur Mazensky rumbled. "Now shut up and stay out of the way." I could see the pilot trying to steady us in the strong winds. Yeah, let's look at the whale. As it attempted to escape us, there was the hiss of a harpoon launch, a shout of triumph. Our craft shuddered and swung. The instrument span wildly. The harpooner had hit home. A thick rope cable connected us to our quarry. It thrashed in pain, jerking us along with it as its blood darkened the water. "We did it!" I shouted triumphantly. The hunters, if anything, looked grimmer than ever, and tightened their buckles. Another harpoon hiss, a roar of pain, and suddenly we were not simply flung, but tumbling through the sky. I braced my feet against the chair legs, and put my head between my legs, preparing for crash landing. Monsieur Mazensky was shouting commands at his team of hunters. A scream penetrated through my haze of dizziness, and I looked up in time to see one of the harpooners miss his grip and fall away. A tiny black dot against sky and sea. I heard Monsieur Mazensky curse and try to unbuckle his belt, his eyes on the ceiling hatch. I lunged for the ladder first. He was so astonished that he did not pull me back till it was too late. He was needed below to organize and command. I had acted out of pure practicality. I could almost hear my dear man's voice in my head, lamenting my flair for the dramatic. The Arctic wind burned my cheeks, and the salt spray from the sea was quickly soaking my mittens. I clung to the harpoon and swung it to aim at the whale. Yeah, taking the time to steady myself. The harpoon flew forth, striking the beast in its very vitals, blood gushing out in great gouts. It keened once more and rolled over. The harpoon cable went taut, and there was a terrific jerk. As though through smoked glass or a smeared camera lens, I saw my mittened hand slip on the lever. I felt rather than heard a scream tear itself out of my throat as I plummeted through the air to the dark, freezing ocean below. That's not good. Did I survive? Passepartout? Let's talk about the journey. Day 24. As I'm sure you're aware, we're almost halfway. By bears and ox. You buy buffalo hides in Gastown. Extremely valuable in Omaha. It's a very long journey. "You goat-faced idiot," Monsieur Mazensky shouted as I blinked my eyes open. I was only going to close the hatch. There was no need to harpoon the beast again. Ah, I said before casting up my accounts into a nearby basin. You very nearly killed yourself, is what you did, bloody civilian. His cheeks purpled and puffed out. Next time, leave the harpooning to the harpooners. Did we get the whale at least? Of course, that was a lucky shot, Monsieur Mazenski cursed the filthy string. Then he shook my hand. Don't get any ideas, he added, before sweeping out of the room. I still think you're an idiot. Yeah, let's look around. I thought I saw my master's still drawn face, but I was sound asleep before I could even call out. The ice walker, I noted, was moving once more. Our relationship has strengthened. I feel like the more we converse, the more we just repeat what we've already talked about. A set of mechanical pincers emerged from the back of the ice walker, grabbed up by the whale's carcass from the water, and pulled it into its gaping maw. The artificers told me that it would be processed for fuel on our journey ever north. I went to observe more closely. Standing on one of the metal walkways above the rendering station, it was as though the ice walker itself was consuming the whale. A vast array of pipes pierced into the corpse, sucking out whale oil in great heaving gulps. Long blades whirred and sliced, chopping blubber away from the meat. The crew did not seem to mind the foul work. Though it turned my stomach, I could not stop thinking about it. Even as I lay in my berth that night, the smell of oil and blood chased me into my dreams. It's a lot to read. Ugh. Let's group him up, I guess. Monsieur Fogg had managed to find himself a whist partner from among the artificers' ranks. It was an arcane talent of his, and one I greatly envied. If only I could so easily find contentment. Mes amis. Or mes amis. The fellow in question was a youth of barely 20, handsome enough in a pallid-eyed sort of mode, and apparently some sort of meteorological prodigy. I did not like the way he looked at my master, and settled myself to watch their game closely. No doubt he had designs on my master. Monsieur Fogg, too honorable a person to suspect him. My master was lucky indeed to have me, passepartout at his service. I fixed my gaze on the artificer, and barely blinked until the game was finished, and he took his oily smiled ulterior motive leave. Monsieur Fogg gave me a long, perhaps bemused look as we made ready to retire, but said nary a word. He knows I'm there for him. Passepartout and Fogg for life. I get that tattooed across my back. Ah, there you are, Passepartout. Monsieur Jokin flashed me a bright smile. Would you like to come up in the balloon with me this afternoon? We need some meteorological readings, but we could make a picnic of it. I agreed fervently, rather glad of his company. An hour later, we were climbing the swinging rope ladder up to the tethered balloon. I shivered and resisted the urge to look down. We were a long way up, and I could not help but recall my recent terrifying fall from the whale hunter's gyrocopter. Monsieur Jokin pulled himself up into the gondola and extended a hand. I let him help me up, but managed to catch my knee on the edge of his long coat and tumbled us together in a heap. Oh no. I'm so sorry, Monsieur, I exclaimed in mortification. He laughed as we picked ourselves up and cast me a look under his lashes. Call me VD, eh? Surely we know each other that well by now. I'm not trying to hook up with this guy. He excused himself to cast off and set up the instruments, and in the meanwhile, I set up the lunch of whale meat and oatmeal, as prettily as I could given the circumstances. I even managed to scrounge up a little tallow candle for a touch of civilization. Then I went up to the observation deck and joined VD at the railing. The ice walker was still visible, a hulking shape belching dark smoke into the misty white. We were suspended in an endless sky in a moment of calmness. Yeah, let's do this. VD cast me an almost shy smile, and we ducked back down into the warmth for an amiable lunch. This is a very long journey to the North Pole. Oops. Oh no, that's it. Tell the Ice Walker's pilot threw a cloudberry pie at the chief navigator's face at lunch. No, this is no euphemism. Though I did make a few arch remarks about lovers' quarrels at to my dining companions. Alas, apparently, the pilot and chief navigator are merely friends. Ha. I was just say ha. I eavesdropped upon their argument shamelessly. The crux of the matter seemed to be that we were a few degrees off course and they each blamed each other. We have a course? I muttered, loudly enough to catch their attention. The chief navigator turned her burning gaze towards me. Do you think we just look at a compass and shout, "North, tally-ho"? Yes, I said, flinching, a little at the way her hands curled in a fist by her side. Chief navigator threw a set of charts at the pilot. Read them, double-check them if you like. I gave you the correct heading. And I followed your instructions perfectly. The pilot let the papers fall to the floor. Then how do we end up off course? The navigator crossed her arms. Answer me that. Perhaps it was sabotage. There was a horrible silence after my suggestion, and I resisted the urge to shuffle my feet. We're the only ones here, the pilot said slowly. Think one of us did it? Betrayal usually comes from within. Let's not point fingers, the chief navigator declared, extending her hand in a gesture of reconciliation, and the pilot shook it. Let's keep our wits about us, she added, and move forward. Such a long trip. Today, investigated our unplanned detour, but learned little of any value. The navigational charts were not guarded or locked away, and the various instruments used for the purpose so delicate and complex that any one of them could easily malfunction. Yeah, let's bribe this guy. For anything unusual, trying to shake the feeling that I had just thrown my money down a lightless, echoing well. Madame Truho, the interloper. North Pole, Yokohama. Omsk, I guess? Still a very long journey. An inconsequential sort of day. Yeah, let's talk about the little spider-like automatons. And the entire lower deck had to be evacuated. Made progress across the ice, though I do not know how. One can tell. It's a heck of a journey. That's for certain. Yeah, let's visit the cook. Monsieur Baker. I know it's probably Baker, but we'll call him Baker because he's a cook. Who was in a foul mood. Are you here to complain about the salty porridge? He cast a grim look at an already quivering apprentice. Get in line. I like my porridge salty, I told him reassuringly, and his expression relaxed. He fetched me a piece of whale meat cured with cloudberries, a new recipe he was experimenting with. I assured him it was wonderful and ate every last mouthful in front of him to prove my point. Do not say I am not committed to my endeavors, however trifling. Disaster has struck. Oh no. So cold. The ice walker has been destroyed. We're stranded. Oh, that's not good. We're stranded upon an ice floe in the bitterest cold I've ever experienced. I have only a few moments to scribble this entry, so I'll keep it to the most important facts. We have little hope of rescue and few supplies. It seems certain we will die here, only not yet. There's too much to do. Alright, I don't think that's gonna work. I'm getting a little warmth in my fingers by putting them into compacted snow. Enough to write. On the Ice Walker. Nobody knows what happened. Disaster struck in the middle of the night. Yeah. I wonder if that man had placed a bomb upon our craft and let us set out towards our deaths. Let's see, boiler explosions. Artificers blame boiler explosions and cascade reactions. The endless, pointless debate on the matter is distracting. though heaven knows we need distractions. It would have VD Jokinen's failsafes. They activated, saving us, a series of pneumatic escape tubes that shot us and pieces of equipment, crates, suitcases, all hurtling us as far from the sinking wreck as possible. He had done his best, and I was grateful for that. But VD seemed to feel responsible for our situation, and has lapsed into dark, brooding silence as he looks around our cobbled-together camp, or at our ever-dwindling stock of food. I can write no more, too cold. Hey, what do we do? Wool shirts. Thank you, Passepartout. That'll make me very comfortable. I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, I don't suspect rescue. Madame Juho glared up into the sky, muttered, "Bugger this," strapped on her snowshoes and began walking out into the whiteness. I called after her, but she did not look back. I looked around at the thin, ice-rimmed faces of the other survivors and wondered how long it would be before another one of us gave up, simply gave up and walked into the snow. I swore it would not be me, and I held that promise close to my chest and fooled myself that it warned me. Looking down at my master's too pale, shivering form, and tried desperately to think of how I could help him. Yeah, here we go. Pressing a vial of thick tonic into my hands. "It will help your master heal," he said. "Thank you," I said fervently, too desperate to look a gift horse in the tonic. It seemed kindness was to be found, even at the edges of the world, past the point of human endurance. The sky was ablaze when I awoke. Spectacular streamers of emerald green and bruised purple and flushed pink. The aurora borealis. A nearby artificer whispered in awe. "It is magnificent." It seemed to me as though the sky itself was giving us hope. Painted in coruscating colors across the horizon. It seemed that the prospect of death makes me sentimental. I really don't know what we're gonna do. I no longer truly remember what it was like to be warm. Perhaps I have never truly been so. The memories seem so fragile. They spin away like dust, like snow. There has only ever been this cold that has not enough mercy to numb, one that howls like a pack of wolves on the hunt. What do we do? Like, we're legitimately stranded here. I thought of Maman today. Her strength has picked me up and flung me in the air. The surety I had that she would catch me once more. I wonder what she would do, tossed out into this dark, barren landscape. She'd grind her fist into her eyes to stop the tears. Would she conjure up sunlight with her bare hands? Mon, if by some strange and wild chance you should come to read this... Void belaying. It is, I feel, entirely to blame for this sorry end of mine. Think of me with love, as I am thinking of you now on this endless Arctic night. Once more I sought to aid my master. We had some alcohol in our possession. I brought out the Chateau de Yikwam, I don't know, and offered him a slug. The liquid trickled between his cracked lips and made him cough darkly, but it seemed to bring a little color into his cheeks. For a moment he squeezed my arm, and his strength ebbed once more. Like, is this it? Is this our end? Like, Monsieur Fogg has lost 3 toes to frostbite. I have not been careful enough. I was not conscientious enough. The medic caught it in time, and he will not lose them. Small victories, but I'll take them, each and every one. While I had strength, I was determined to provide succor to Monsieur Fogg. Succor. Let's Monsieur Mazensky help me? And he offered me a thick fur from the Pomor bags. "Keep Fogg warm," he said roughly. "It'll help." "Thank you." I whispered, "Thank you." He gave me a short nod and stumbled back to our makeshift camp to tend my master. Like, is Santa Claus not gonna come save us? I need something here. We were at the edge of the world without Monsieur Fogg and I have been sleeping curled against each other since the disaster. I tried desperately to press some small warmth into his body. He's unconscious and then delirious. His lucid moments only underscore the wrongness of his delirium. If we survive, I'll be satisfied only to see him raise his left eyebrow and comment upon the temperature of the tea. Let's approach the cook for supplies. Keenly aware that I was hardly the first to do so, Monsieur Baker saw something in my face that caused him to hand me a day's ration of cured whale, an unexpected, even unbelievable bounty. I had to blink away tears, and he very kindly pretended that he did not see them. I fed each strip to my master carefully, reverently, watching his color slowly return as he chewed. Okay. There's a strange black streak across the horizon. I can hear the others murmur. An airship, an airship. I do not believe them. I cannot. A collective hallucination for people driven beyond hope, beyond reason, beyond bearing. I do not truly believe until I see Madame Juho stand on the deck. Need a ride, she shouts, her familiar voice mocking, and I turn to Monsieur Fogg and smile. We are saved. Heck yeah, and we're still going to North Pole? Should we not just dip out of here? Like, we're... So, to say what happened then, the injured Monsieur Fogg were whisked away by the medics. We were wrapped in blankets with brisk efficiency and given steaming cups of broth. Madame Juho stood with an older man in a blue samigatki and reindeer fur coat, the silhouettes framed by the observation windows. How did you find this airship? I asked. The man made a disgusted sound. If Raja had done her duty correctly, you would not be here. Duty? What duty? I looked between them, feeling a deep sense of unease. I was supposed to make sure the expedition did not make it to the North Pole, Madame Juho responded evenly, fingering her copper lily brooch. I adjusted the instruments to push us off course, but I had nothing to do with the wreck. Why would you betray the artificers? She looked uncomfortable. I have other allegiances that come first, to my people and my family. All of which is moot, Juho, the man interjected, as you have failed resoundingly. I could not let them die out there, she replied, sounding uncharacteristically chastened. And who are you to say that? I demanded. Passepartout, she stiffened. This is my father, Ivor Juho, Sami representative to the Council of Circumpolar Northern Peoples. Madame Juho looked out the window and took a breath. We have arrived. I look out of the window. A city rose up out of the pale mist and ice, an alchemical dream of glass and copper and bone. Here and there, impossibly lush tangles of trees and shrubs grew, under domes of glittering ice-rimmed glass. Interconnected tents of reindeer's skin and carved whale's bone lined snow-packed streets. Frozen rivers were arched with delicate bridges of copper and zinc. The heart of the city was a vast, towering structure of steam boilers and copper pipes. Welcome to the North Pole, Madame Juho said, subdued to the sacred city of Quasituk. Well, it's quite the adventure. We're going to call it here, and in the next episode, we'll explore the North Pole. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.